The ghost in the glass tower, Riley Morgan, had perfected the art of being invisible. For 3 years, she had walked the polished marble floors of Hayes Industries, carrying files, scheduling meetings, and keeping the entire executive floor running smoothly. She wore the same style every day: gray pencil skirts, white blouses buttoned to the collar, hair pulled back in a tight bun, minimal makeup, sensible black heels that never made a sound. Nobody noticed her. Not really. She was the woman who made sure Jackson Hayes had his coffee at exactly 7:30 each morning. She was the voice that reminded him of conference calls, the hands that organized his chaotic calendar, the mind that anticipated his needs before he spoke them. But to Jackson Hayes, the brilliant CEO who had built a tech empire by the age of 35, Riley was simply part of the furniture. "I need the quarterly reports by noon," Jackson would say, without looking up from his computer screen. "Already on your desk?" "Mr. Hayes," Riley would reply, her voice steady and professional. He never looked, never saw the way her eyes tracked his movements, never noticed how she held her breath when he walked past, never recognized that behind her efficient exterior was a woman who had long ago stopped hoping to be seen. The man in the tower, Jackson. Hayes lived in a world of numbers and strategies. He had built Hayes Industries from nothing, turning a small software startup into a billion-dollar corporation that revolutionized cloud computing. His success came from focus, from eliminating distractions, from keeping emotions locked away where they could not interfere with logic. His office occupied the entire top floor of the Hayes Tower, a glass and steel monument to ambition that dominated the Manhattan skyline. From his desk, he could see the entire city, but he rarely looked. His eyes were always on screens, on data, on the next deal that would cement his legacy. Brandon Cole, his business partner and the only person Jackson considered a friend, often joked that Jackson had ice in his veins instead of blood. "Hayes, normal people take breaks," Brandon said one afternoon. Dropping into the leather chair across from Jackson's desk, they eat lunch. They talk to their employees. They remember that other humans exist. Normal people do not build empires. No, but they also do not die alone in glass towers, wondering where their lives went. Brandon leaned forward. "The charity gala is this Friday. You are going. I have a meeting with the Tokyo investors. Reschedule it. This is important. The mayor will be there, half the city council, every major player in tech. You need to be seen as more than just a corporate machine." Jackson sighed, finally looking at his friend. Brandon had been with him since the beginning, had believed in the company when it was just an idea sketched on a napkin. If anyone could push Jackson out of his carefully controlled routine, it was Brandon. "Fine, 1 hour. Then I leave. 2 hours minimum, and you have to actually talk to people."
Ow.
Brandon grinned. "Who knows? You might even enjoy yourself." After Brandon left, Jackson pressed the intercom button. "Ms. Morgan, clear my Friday evening schedule. I will be attending the Tech Innovation Gala." There was a pause on the other end, so brief that most people would not have noticed. But then Riley's voice came through, as calm as ever. "Of course, Mr. Hayes. I will make the arrangements." Jackson released the button and returned to his work, already forgetting the conversation. But in her small office down the hall, Riley stared at her phone, her heart pounding. The one event she had received an invitation 2 weeks ago, an invitation meant for all Hayes Industries employees. She had thrown it in the trash, knowing she would never go. Knowing she did not belong in that world of champagne and evening gowns. Now Jackson would be there. Natalie Pierce, the office manager, appeared in Riley's doorway. Natalie was everything Riley was not. Confident, bold, always perfectly styled with her dark curls and bright red lipstick. "You okay, honey? You look like you have seen a ghost." Riley forced a smile. "Fine. Just a long day." Natalie studied her with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "The gala is Friday, I know. You should go." "Natalie, I do not. You have worked here for 3 years. Riley, 3 years of making everyone else look good, of fixing everyone else's mistakes, of being the backbone of this entire floor. And nobody sees you." Natalie crossed her arms. "Maybe it is time they did." The decision that evening, Riley sat in her small Brooklyn apartment, the gala invitation retrieved from the trash and smoothed flat on her coffee table. The elegant script mocked her. "You are cordially invited to the annual Tech Innovation Gala." She had never been to anything like it. Her life was simple, carefully contained. She sent money home to her mother in Ohio every month, money that paid for her younger sister's college tuition. She lived modestly, saved carefully, and never drew attention to herself. That was how you survived. That was how you kept your job when you were replaceable, except she was not replaceable. She knew that. She knew Jackson Hayes would be lost without her, even if he did not realize it. She knew the company better than anyone except Jackson himself. She knew which investors needed careful handling, which deals were worth pursuing, which employees were unhappy and ready to leave. She knew everything except how to make him see her. Riley picked up her phone and dialed a number she had not called in months. Riley. "Oh my God, is everything okay?" Her college roommate, Jessica, answered on the second ring. I need your help. I need you to help me be someone different, just for one night." There was a pause, then Jessica laughed. "Finally. I have been waiting 3 years for you to say that. Tell me everything." The transformation Friday arrived faster than Riley expected. She spent the day in her usual routine, bringing Jackson his coffee, managing his calls, ensuring every detail of his schedule ran perfectly. He never looked at her. Not once. At 5 o'clock, she left the office and met Jessica at a boutique in Soho. What happened next felt like a dream, like she was watching someone else's life unfold. Jessica pulled dresses from racks, held up jewelry, debated shoes with the intensity of a general planning a military campaign. "Hate this," Jessica finally declared, holding up a dress that made Riley's breath catch. "This is the one." It was midnight blue, the color of the sky just before dawn. The fabric was soft and flowing, nothing like her usual structured skirts. It had a neckline that would show her collarbones, a back that would reveal skin, a silhouette that would make people look twice. "I cannot." "You can." "Riley, you are beautiful. You have always been beautiful. It is time everyone else saw it too." 2 hours later, Riley barely recognized herself in the mirror. Her hair, usually pulled back in that tight bun, now fell in soft waves around her shoulders. Jessica had done her makeup, bringing out the green in her hazel eyes, making her lips look full and inviting. The dress fit like it was made for her, transforming her from invisible to unforgettable. He will not be able to look away. Jessica promised. Riley was not sure if that terrified her or thrilled her. The entrance to the gala was held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The entire building transformed into a glittering celebration of innovation and wealth. Riley arrived alone, her hands shaking as she stepped out of the taxi. The entrance was packed with people in tuxedos and designer gowns. Everyone who was anyone in New York's tech scene. She almost turned around, almost got back in the taxi and went home to her safe, invisible life. But then she thought of 3 years of being overlooked. 3 years of watching Jackson Hayes treat her like she did not exist. 3 years of wondering if she would ever be brave enough to be seen. Riley took a deep breath, lifted her chin, and walked up the marble steps. The moment she entered the grand hall, conversations stuttered. Heads turned. She felt the weight of eyes on her, and for the first time in years, she did not shrink away. She walked through the crowd with her head high, her heart pounding. Searching for one person, she found him by the bar, deep in conversation with Brandon Cole. Jackson looked devastating in his tuxedo, his dark hair perfectly styled, his sharp jawline catching the light. He was laughing at something Brandon said, a rare, genuine smile on his face. Riley walked toward them, legs steady despite the trembling in her chest. Brandon saw her first. His eyes widened, and he stopped mid-sentence. Jackson noticed his friend's distraction and turned. Their eyes met across the crowded room. Jackson's expression went from polite interest to confusion to something else entirely, something that made Riley's breath catch. He stared at her like he had never seen her before, like she had materialized out of thin air, because in his mind, she had Jackson Hayes, the man who noticed every detail in a business report. who could spot a flaw in code from across a room, who prided himself on his attention to detail, had no idea who she was. Riley walked up to them, a small smile playing on her lips despite her nerves. "Mr. Hayes," she said softly. "Enjoying the evening?" Jackson opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. Brandon was grinning like he had just watched a miracle. "I apologize," Jackson finally managed. "Have we met?" The question should have hurt. It should have confirmed every fear Riley had about being invisible. But instead, standing there in her midnight blue dress with the entire room watching, Riley felt something unexpected. "Power we have," she replied. "Every single day for 3 years." She watched the realization dawn on his face, watched his eyes widen as recognition finally came. "Ms. Morgan?" "Riley," she corrected gently. "My name is Riley," and in that moment everything changed. The shattering of glass Jackson Hayes had built his entire life on certainty. Numbers were certain. Code was certain. Business strategies were certain. But standing in the grand hall of the Metropolitan Museum, staring at the woman before him, Jackson felt his entire foundation crack. This could not be Ms. Morgan. Ms. Morgan was efficient and invisible. A fixture of his office like the desk or the coffee machine, Ms. Morgan wore gray and white, kept her hair tied back, spoke in measured tones that never demanded attention. This woman was radiant. Her dress caught the light like water under moonlight. Her hair framed a face that was suddenly impossibly beautiful. Her eyes held a spark of something he had never seen before, something that made his chest tighten in a way he did not understand. "Riley," he repeated, tasting the name for the first time. How had he never used it before? How had he worked with someone for 3 years and never known their first name? Brandon clapped him on the shoulder, still grinning. "Well, this just got interesting. Riley, you look absolutely stunning." Jackson here seems to have lost his ability to form complete sentences, which I have to say is a first. Riley's smile widened slightly, and Jackson noticed the way it transformed her entire face. "Thank you, Mr. Cole." "Brandon, please." Anyone who can make Jackson Hayes speechless deserves to be on a first-name basis. Brandon glanced between them, his eyes dancing with amusement. "I suddenly remembered I need to talk to the mayor about something urgent. You two should catch up." Before Jackson could protest, Brandon disappeared into the crowd. Leaving them alone in the middle of the party, Jackson struggled to regain his composure. He was the CEO of a billion-dollar company. He negotiated with world leaders and tech giants. He gave speeches to thousands without breaking a sweat. But right now, faced with his assistant in a blue dress, he felt like a teenager at his first dance. "Would you like to get some air?" The words came out before he could think them through. "The terrace is quieter." Riley hesitated, and he saw something flicker across her face. Doubt? Fear? But then she nodded. "I would like that." The museum's terrace overlooked Central Park, the city lights creating a glowing backdrop against the night sky. The noise of the gala faded to a distant hum as Jackson led Riley outside. The spring air was cool, and he noticed her shiver slightly. Without thinking, he shrugged off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. She looked up at him, surprised, and he was struck again by how different she seemed. Or had he simply never bothered to look? "Thank you," she said softly, pulling the jacket closer. They stood at the railing in silence for a moment. Jackson's mind raced, trying to reconcile the woman beside him with the efficient, invisible assistant he thought he knew. 3 years, he finally said. "You said 3 years? It's 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days. Riley's voice was quiet. "But who is counting?" The hint of humor in her tone made him look at her sharply. "Why did I not recognize you?" Riley turned to face him fully, and in the soft light, he saw something in her eyes that made his stomach drop. It was not anger or resentment. It was resignation, as if his question confirmed something she had always known. "'Cause you never looked, Mr. Hayes? Not really." The simple truth of it hit him harder than any business failure ever had. "Jackson," he said. "Call me Jackson." "I do not think that would be appropriate, Mr. Hayes." "Right now, we are not at the office. We are 2 people at a party." He paused, struggling with words that did not come naturally to him. I want to know who you are. The real you, not just the assistant who manages my schedule. Riley studied him for a long moment, and he found himself holding his breath, waiting for her verdict. All right, she finally said. But if we are going to do this, you need to understand something. I have been invisible for a very long time. By choice. There were reasons for that. Tell me. The story behind the shadows. Riley leaned against the railing, her eyes distant as she spoke. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. My father left when I was 10. My mother worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat, but it was never enough. When I was 18, my younger sister got sick. Leukemia. Jackson felt something twist in his chest. He had never known any of this. The medical bills destroyed us. My mother lost the house. I had a scholarship to Northwestern, but I turned it down. I stayed home, worked retail, helped take care of my sister. She survived, thank God. She is in college now, studying medicine because of what she went through. And you came to New York 2 years later. I needed to make real money. Money to pay off the debt, money to help my mom, money to make sure my sister never had to worry about tuition. Riley's voice was steady, but Jackson could hear the steel beneath it. I worked my way up from an entry-level position. Every promotion, every raise, I sent it home. I lived small, saved carefully, and made myself indispensable. By being invisible, by being what was needed. In my experience, Mr. Hayes, the people who demand attention are the ones who get fired first. The ones who blend in, who do the work without complaint, who never cause problems, those are the ones who survive. Jackson turned to face her fully. Is that what you have been doing? Surviving? Riley met his eyes, and for the first time, he saw the full weight of what she had carried alone. What else is there? The question hung between them, heavy with years of sacrifice and resignation. Jackson felt something crack open inside him. Something he had kept locked away since he was a child, watching his own father work himself to death building a business that ultimately failed. There is living, he said quietly. There is being seen. There is mattering. I matter to my family.
Matter.
You should matter here too. To the company. He stopped himself, unsure of what he had been about to say. Riley's lips curved in a sad smile. I am your assistant, Mr. Hayes. I make your life easier. That is my job. That is all it has ever been. No, the word came out more forcefully than he intended. No, that is not all. Do you know how many assistants I went through before you? 17 in 2 years. None of them could do what you do. None of them understood how I think, what I need, how to keep everything running smoothly. You are not just an assistant. You already struggled for the right word, and in that struggle, you realized something that should have been obvious all along. You are essential. To Hayes Industries. To me, the dance music drifted from inside, something slow and melodic. Jackson held out his hand without planning to, acting on an impulse that felt foreign and right at the same time. Dance with me. Riley stared at his hand like it was a trap. Mr. Hayes Jackson, please, just for tonight. Let me be Jackson, and let yourself be Riley, not the assistant and the boss. Just to people. She looked at him for a long moment, and he saw the war playing out behind her eyes. Finally, slowly, she placed her hand in his. The moment their palms touched, Jackson felt electricity shoot up his arm. He drew her closer, one hand at her waist, and they began to move to the music. She fit against him perfectly, her head just below his chin. And he caught the scent of her perfume, something light and floral that he would never forget. They moved in silence, and Jackson felt his carefully constructed walls crumbling with each step. This woman had been 5 feet away from him every day for 3 years, and he had never noticed the way she moved with unconscious grace. He had never seen the vulnerability in her eyes or the strength in the set of her shoulders. He had never wondered what made her smile or what kept her awake at night. He had been blind. Why tonight? He asked quietly. Why did you decide to come? To be seen? Riley's hand tightened slightly on his shoulder. I got tired of disappearing. I got tired of being a ghost in my own life, And I thought, just for one night, I would see what it felt like to be noticed. You are noticed now. She looked up at him, and the pain in her eyes nearly undid him. But what happens Monday morning when I walk into your office in my gray skirt and white blouse? Will you still see me then? Or will I go back to being invisible? Jackson stopped dancing. They stood still on the terrace, the music playing around them, the city lights flickering in the background. He looked at this woman, really looked at her, and saw all the things he had missed. The intelligence that shone in her eyes, the quiet strength that had carried her through impossible circumstances, the beauty that had been there all along, waiting for someone to notice. I will see you, he promised. I swear to you, Riley Morgan, I will see you. The observation inside the gala. Brandon Cole watched through the glass doors as his best friend and his assistant swayed together on the terrace. Natalie Pierce appeared beside him, 2 glasses of champagne in her hands. Did you know? Brandon asked, accepting a glass. That Riley was gorgeous? Yes. That she was in love with her oblivious boss? Also yes. Natalie sipped her champagne. The question is, what is Jackson going to do about it? Jackson does not do relationships. He does not do emotions. He barely does human interaction. Looks pretty human to me right now. Natalie smiled. Riley has been the best thing that ever happened to him, and he never even knew she existed. Maybe it is time he woke up. Brandon studied his friend through the glass. Jackson's face showed something Brandon had never seen before, uncertainty mixed with wonder. Like a man discovering color for the first time after living in black and white. He is terrified, Brandon observed. Good, he should be. Riley deserves someone who is willing to be terrified for her. The promise and the fear. As the song ended, Jackson became aware of eyes on them. Through the glass, he could see people watching, whispering. The CEO of Hayes Industries dancing with an unknown woman on the terrace would be the talk of the tech community by morning. He should care about that. He should worry about his reputation, his image, the carefully cultivated persona of the focused, unattached businessman. But looking at Riley, he found he did not care at all. People are staring, Riley said, her voice uncertain. Let them. Mr. Hayes. Jackson. This is not real. This is just one night, one moment outside of reality. On Monday, we both go back to who we really are. What if I do not want to? The words surprised him as much as they surprised her. What if I want to know the woman who has been beside me for 3 years? What if I want to understand why you sacrifice so much for your family? What if I want to hear about your dreams, not just your efficiency reports? Riley pulled back slightly and he saw fear flash across her face. You are my boss. There are boundaries. There are rules. I built the company. I make the rules. You do not understand what you are saying? Tomorrow, when the moment passes, when reality comes back, you will regret this. You will see me as unprofessional, as someone who overstepped. I will lose my job, and I cannot lose my job. My family depends on me. The desperation in her voice cut through his rising emotions. She was right to be cautious. He was Jackson Hayes, notorious for his cold business decisions, for cutting out anything that threatened his focus. How many times had he told Brandon that relationships were distractions, that emotions clouded judgment? But standing here with Riley, he felt more clear-headed than he had in years. You will not lose your job, he said firmly. I promise you that. Whatever happens between us, your position is secure. You cannot promise that. If this becomes complicated, if feelings get involved, if things fall apart, then we will handle it like adults. He cupped her face gently, making her look at him. Riley, I spent 3 years not seeing you. I do not want to spend another day being blind. Tears shimmered in her eyes, but she blinked them back. You do not know what you are asking, then teach me, show me. Give me a chance to see who you really are. The breaking point, the terrace door opened, and a server approached apologetically. Mr. Hayes? You have an urgent call from Tokyo. They say it cannot wait. Reality crashed back in. Jackson closed his eyes briefly, frustration coursing through him. This was his life, constant demands, endless obligations. No time for anything that was not business. Riley stepped back, putting proper distance between them. The invisible wall was rebuilding itself, brick by brick. You should take that, she said quietly. This is who you are. This is your world. Riley, thank you for the dance. Mr. Hayes, it was a lovely evening. She slipped his jacket off her shoulders and handed it back to him, her professional mask sliding back into place. I will see you Monday morning with your coffee at 7:30. She turned to leave, and Jackson felt panic rise in his chest. This was the moment. He could let her walk away, could take the call, could return to his safe, controlled existence where emotions did not interfere with business, or he could choose differently. Tell Tokyo. I will call them back in an hour, he told the server without taking his eyes off Riley. She stopped, her back still to him. Riley, please. Do not run from this. Do not run from me. She turned slowly, and the tears she had been holding back finally spilled over. I have been running my whole life, Mr. Hayes. It is the only way I know how to survive. Then maybe it is time we both stopped running. He closed the distance between them. I have spent years building walls, telling myself that emotions were weaknesses, that caring about anything except business was a distraction. But you know what? I was wrong. I was missing everything that mattered. I am scared, she whispered. So am I, he smiled slightly. Terrified, actually. I have no idea how to do this. I do not date. I do not let people in. I do not know how to be anything except what I have always been. Then why try? Because in 3 hours you have made me feel more alive than I have in 10 years. Because I cannot stop thinking about what else I have missed by not seeing you. Because when I look at you, Riley Morgan, I see someone worth being terrified for. The words hung in the air between them. Raw and honest in a way Jackson had never allowed himself to be, Riley reached up and touched his face gently, her fingers trembling. What if this ruins everything? What if it does not? Monday morning, the weekend had passed like a fever dream. After the gala, Jackson had skipped the Tokyo call and spent 3 more hours talking with Riley on that terrace. They talked about everything: her childhood in Ohio, his lonely upbringing as the son of a failed entrepreneur, her dreams of maybe one day opening a nonprofit for families dealing with medical debt, his fear that success was the only thing that made him worthwhile. When the gala ended, he had walked her to a taxi and watched it drive away, her blue dress disappearing into the New York night. He had not kissed her. Something told him that when he did, it needed to be without the pressure of the gala, without the watching eyes, without the weight of one magical evening. Now, it was Monday morning, and Jackson sat in his office at 6:30. An hour earlier than usual, his stomach in knots. Would she come in her gray skirt and white blouse? Would she pull her hair back into that tight bun? Would she retreat into invisibility, pretending Friday night never happened? Would he let her? At 7:15, the elevator doors opened. Jackson stood up without thinking, his hands gripping the edge of his desk. Riley stepped out, wearing a soft green dress that brought out the color of her eyes. Her hair was down, falling in gentle waves around her shoulders. She wore minimal makeup, but she did not need it. She looked exactly as she had on Friday, beautiful. Real, visible. Their eyes met across the office, and Jackson felt his heart restart. She walked toward him slowly, carrying his coffee as she always did, but everything about the moment was different. When she reached his desk, she set the cup down carefully. Good morning, Mr. Hayes. Jackson. A small smile played at her lips. We are at the office now. There are boundaries. What if I do not want boundaries? Then we need to talk about what that means. Riley took a deep breath. I spoke with HR this morning. I requested a transfer. Jackson felt like she had punched him. What? To the marketing department? Natalie has been asking for someone with my organizational skills. It is a lateral move, same pay, different floor. No, absolutely not. Jackson, if we are going to try this, whatever this is, I cannot be your assistant. The power dynamic is wrong. It puts both of us in an impossible position. Riley's voice was steady, but he could see the emotion in her eyes. I want to do this right. I want us to have a real chance, not something built on professional obligation. Jackson walked around his desk until he stood directly in front of her. You are not doing this because of Friday night. I am doing this because I deserve to be more than invisible. You helped me see that, She reached up and straightened his tie, a gesture that was both familiar and intimate. I've spent 3 years being defined by this job, by being what everyone needed me to be. It is time I figured out who Riley Morgan actually is. I already know who you are. You are brave and brilliant and stronger than anyone I have ever met. You barely know me. Then let me know you. Really know you? Without the complication of being your boss, Jackson caught her hand as she finished with his tie. Is the transfer final? Not until I sign the paperwork this afternoon. Sign it. Riley blinked in surprise. What? Sign it? Move to marketing. Let me take you to dinner tomorrow night, not as your boss, but as a man who spent 3 years being an idiot and wants a chance to make up for lost time. It's the lunch that changed everything at noon. Brandon appeared in Jackson's doorway with a knowing grin. Lunch. They went to their usual place, a small Italian restaurant, 3 blocks from the office. Once their food arrived, Brandon leaned back in his chair and studied Jackson with obvious amusement. You look different. I am the same as always. No, you look terrified and hopeful at the same time. It is unsettling. Brandon took a bite of his pasta. Riley requested a transfer. You know about that? Natalie told me. She also told me it is the smartest thing Riley could do if she wants to date the boss without causing a corporate scandal. Brandon's expression turned serious. Are you sure about this, Jackson? You have never dated anyone from work. You barely date at all. And Riley is not just anyone. She knows everything about you, your company, your weak points. If this goes wrong, it will not go wrong. Cannot know that. Jackson set down his fork. Friday night, when I was standing on that terrace with her, I felt something I have not felt since I was 18 years old trying to code our first program. Do you remember what that was like? That sense of possibility, that feeling that you were standing at the beginning of something important. I remember, but building a company and building a relationship are not the same thing. They are not. A company you can control. A relationship requires trust, vulnerability, letting someone see the parts of you that you usually hide. It terrifies me. Jackson met his friend's eyes. But the thought of not trying terrifies me more. Brandon was quiet for a moment. She is special, is not she? I do not know how I missed it. How I looked past her every single day for 3 years. You saw what you wanted to see. You built your life to be about one thing, success. Everything else was just noise. Brandon smiled slightly. Maybe Riley is the first person who made you want to listen to the noise? The conversation that mattered that evening, Jackson did something he had not done in 5 years. He left the office at 6 o'clock. He texted Riley an address and a time, 7 p.m. The address was not a restaurant. It was the Brooklyn Bridge pedestrian walkway. Riley arrived right on time, still in her green dress, but with a light jacket against the evening chill. Jackson was already there, leaning against the railing, watching the sun set over the harbor. This is unexpected, she said as she joined him. I thought we should talk somewhere neutral. Not the office, not a fancy restaurant where we have to perform. Just us. Jackson turned to face her. I need to be honest with you about something. He saw fear flicker across her face, but she nodded. Okay, I do not know how to do this. I have not had a real relationship since college, and that ended badly enough that I decided business was safer. I work 8-hour weeks. I am controlling and obsessive about details. I have trouble expressing emotions, and my first instinct in any conflict is to shut down and focus on work. Riley listened quietly, her expression unreadable. I am telling you this because you deserve to know what you would be getting into. I am not easy, Riley. I am probably going to mess this up in dozens of ways. But I want to try. He took her hands in his. I want to try because when I am with you, I feel like maybe I could be someone better than who I have been. Riley squeezed his hands. My turn. He nodded. I have trust issues from my father leaving. I have a hero complex from taking care of my family that makes it hard for me to ask for help. I am terrible at putting myself first, and I have a tendency to disappear when things get hard, because it is easier than fighting. She took a deep breath. I am also probably going to mess this up in dozens of ways. But I want to try to... Jackson felt something loosen in his chest. We are quite a pair, disasters waiting to happen. Maybe, or maybe we are two people who are finally brave enough to be honest. He pulled her closer. Ground rules. We communicate even when it is uncomfortable. We do not let work bleed into our personal time, unless it is an emergency. And if either of us feels like this is not working, we talk about it instead of running. Deal. My ground rules. You have to actually take days off occasionally. I will not be the person who watches you work yourself to death. And you have to let me keep helping my family without feeling guilty about it? Why would I want you to feel guilty about that? Because in my last relationship, he resented every dollar I sent home. He said I was choosing them over him. Jackson felt anger flash through him. Then he was an idiot who did not deserve you. Your family is part of who you are, Riley. I would never ask you to change that. She looked up at him with such gratitude that he felt his throat tighten. Can I kiss you now? He asked quietly. We have been dancing around it for 3 days, and I am going crazy. Riley laughed, the sound bright and genuine. Yes, you can kiss me now. Jackson cupped her face in his hands and lowered his lips to hers. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, both of them testing this new territory. But then Riley's arms wrapped around his neck, and he pulled her closer. And the kiss deepened into something that made the rest of the world disappear. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Riley rested her forehead against his. I have wanted to do that for approximately 2 years and 7 months. Jackson laughed, surprised by his own joy. Why did you not say something? Because you were my boss, and I was invisible, and it seemed like the most impossible thing in the world. She pulled back to look at him. Now it is just impossible, which is better. We are going to make this work. You sound very certain for someone who just admitted he has no idea what he is doing. I am certain about you. Everything else we can figure out. 3 months later, the Hayes Industries quarterly meeting was usually a stressful affair. But today, Jackson found himself watching the clock, counting down until it ended. Riley had texted him during lunch. Dinner at my place tonight. I am cooking. Try not to work until midnight. Working for the marketing department had transformed her. She had ideas now that she felt free to voice, campaigns that Brandon said were brilliant. She smiled more. She laughed more. She existed in full color instead of Grax, and Jackson was learning to exist that way too. You're distracted. Brandon whispered during a presentation. I have dinner plans. Ah, the girlfriend. Jackson smiled. The word still felt strange, but good strange. She is cooking. That is serious. Next, you will tell me you are moving in together. Actually, Brandon's eyes widened. Already? Her lease is up next month, and she spends most nights at my place anyway. It makes sense. Jackson Hayes, doing something that makes sense for personal reasons rather than business logic. I never thought I would see the day. Brandon clapped him on the shoulder. I am happy for you, man. Really? When the meeting finally ended, Jackson gathered his things quickly. Natalie appeared in his doorway, leaving at 5:30. Who are you, and what have you done with my boss? I have dinner plans. I know, Riley told me. She has been planning this meal for a week. Do not screw it up by being late. Jackson grinned. Yes, ma'am. He made it to Riley's Brooklyn apartment at 6:15. She answered the door in jeans and a soft sweater, her hair pulled back in a casual ponytail, and she had never looked more beautiful. You were early, she said. Surprised? I am learning. He kissed her hello, a gesture that felt natural now, right? It smells amazing in here. I hope you are hungry. I may have gone a little overboard. Dinner was pasta with homemade sauce, salad, garlic bread, and a wine that Riley admitted nervously was probably not expensive enough for his taste. It is perfect, he assured her. Everything is perfect. They ate and talked about their days, about a campaign Riley was working on, about a deal Jackson was negotiating with a company in Singapore. They talked like partners, like equals, like two people who were building something together. After dinner, they moved to her small couch. Riley curled against Jackson's side. I signed the lease termination papers today, she said quietly, having second thoughts about moving in. No, just overwhelmed. 6 months ago, I was invisible. Now, I am moving in with the CEO of Hayes Industries. 6 months ago, I thought success meant being alone. Now I know it means having someone to share everything with. Jackson kissed the top of her head. You changed my life, Riley Morgan. You changed mine first. You saw me? I will always see you. I promise. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, and then Riley shifted to look up at him. I have something to tell you. I have been nervous about it all week. Jackson's heart skipped. What is it? My sister graduates in May. She wants to have a big family celebration in Ohio, and she specifically asked if you would come. She wants to meet the man I have been telling her about. Jackson felt warmth spread through his chest. Of course I will come. I would love to meet your family. Really? It is a small town, Jackson. There is one restaurant, and the fanciest hotel is a Holiday Inn. It is nothing like your world. Riley, you are my world. Everywhere else is just geography. He pulled her closer. Besides, it is time I see where you came from. Time I understand all the pieces that make you who you are. She kissed him, slow and deep, and Jackson felt the same spark he had felt that night on the terrace. The spark that had started all of this. I love you, she whispered against his lips. It was the first time either of them had said it. Jackson froze, his heart pounding. You do not have to say it back, Riley added quickly. I just wanted you to know. Jackson pulled back enough to look at her properly. This woman who had been invisible for so long was now the most visible thing in his life. She was in every thought, every plan for the future, every moment that mattered. I love you too, he said, and the words felt like freedom. I have probably loved you since that night at the gala when you told me your name, and my whole world shifted.